Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Hey.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we have back with us Dr. Robert Hoffman. Robert, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Joe, always glad to be here.
Oh yeah, it's been quite a busy couple of weeks, but we're moving forward, right?
We sure are.
So just this past Monday, I had a CT scan. And they did it with a contrast, and they inject that radioactive dye into you and go and to the scan and see what's moving around. And the way I understand it is the dye's got some glucose in it, and it sort of sees what is active, what's moving, or what is lighting up because of the glucose being in your bloodstream. Is that right?
I'm not sure, Joe. I'm not sure what the contrast agent is for CT.
Got it. All right.
That would be for the glucose PET for sure.
Right.
But the contrast agent for CT, let me see what. Let me see if I can look up a little bit on my other phone.
Yeah, this is interesting because, when we're talking about these things, part of it is just to share the story of what's going on. But the other part is just so people can learn and understand, what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's so invaluable. Who could tell it better than a patient?
Exactly.
Yep. I mean,
and
ground zero, for sure. Let's see. Okay. CT contrast agent. Let's see. Hang on for me, please.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, here we go. CT contrast agents, known also as contrast media or contrast dye, are substances used in computed tomography scans to enhance the visibility of internal organs and tissues, making it easier for radiologists to diagnose medical conditions. These agents are typically injected into a vein or administered orally to improve the clarity of CT images. I think they're not glucose.
I think you're right.
Glucose agent is for glucose PET. Here, the type CT contrast agents are so-called iodinated contrast agents that are maybe linked to iodine, barium sulfate, for example. That's an old timer. The contrast agents work by changing the way X-rays interact with the body. They absorbed X-rays more readily than surrounding tissues, causing them to appear brighter on the CT image. Okay, blah, blah. Good. All right. You had it. It's good. Some people don't like to take it. I think everybody should take it. It's not the most pleasant stuff, but we need an accurate image. We need accurate imaging. And this is especially true in your case.
Exactly. I had multiple tumors. I had the beginnings of metastasis, so it was starting to move into my lymph nodes a little bit. And so we need to be able to see everything we can. And, the good news is it showed some of the tumor they called it resolved, which means it's basically gone.
Basically, it's gone.
It's gone. It's not there anymore. And then
your big, they referred to it as the big mass on the neck.
Right.
And it said resolved. That means gone.
Yes. And so that to me was the best news. And then all the other little things they talked about, vasculature and all the different little, descriptions of things, and everything that was noted was unremarkable, which is again the best news ever.
Well, you have what they call the nodal mass,
right?
Which I guess is they say it originated in a lymph node, metastatic lymph node probably, and it shrunk about 50%.
Yeah.
So that was very encouraging. but it means we have to be on the lookout.
Right, right. We're still in this, even though, it's been in 9 weeks, we've undone what this thing took 20 years to make.
Yeah.
And so that's great, but we're not done yet. And
Well, I think we're in time warp speed.
yeah, agreed.
And now we have to see what's going on with this lymph node mass. I think your suggestion when we talked on the telephone is great, that you head off to Japan for a methionine PET, a MET PET, that'll tell us if that mass or whatever we wish to call it is active.
Right, right, absolutely. And there's I think that my opinion and my thought is that the chemotherapy is still in my system. It's still working. It's still circulating. I still feel it. I still taste it. It's still in there. And so
Working. It's still working.
it's still working. And I took a little bit of a break, but not really. I mean, I just relaxed a little bit while I went on my vacation, but I'm back in a lockstep with my protocols, and even being a little more aggressive as though it was in a really bad spot. And I think it's important right now to make the most of this drugs that are in my body to knock this thing out completely. But part of the answer until I can get to Japan is to determine, what do we got? What's going on? And, they have this NavDX test, which tests for the presence of the virus that caused this, which is important. I certainly want to know if that's coming back, but the last test was 0, and hopefully it'll remain that way. But we found several other tests that will, there was one specific for squamous cell carcinoma antigen, which seemed like that would be very helpful in identifying if I've got any activity going on. And then there's a few other tests that I have in my little dialogue there that says I really want to get a regimen of regular testing, maybe even every month, done until I can determine, what's going on. Is there any activity going on? And, I can feel this thing continuing to shrink. There's still some solid material or mass here, but if you think about it, this tumor was huge. And
the big tumor, Joe, is gone.
right.
What I think you're feeling is what the radiologists call this lymph node or nodal, not call it a nodal mass.
Right.
Kind of jargony, but I think that's what you're feeling. He said it went from about 6.3 centimeters down to 4. 4 is a little more than an inch and a half.
Right.
It's, and that's probably still shrinking, but we really need to know what that is.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's part of, what this is all about. This whole conversation has been about trying to get to the bottom of the problem and how to solve it. And so far, the actions that we're taking seem to be working extremely well, but we also have to, stay focused on understanding what we have. I'm really looking forward to getting the rest of the results, because they scanned my chest as well, and I don't have those results yet.
I think you can be pretty confident that that's going to be a negative.
I do, yeah.
Anyway, we'll get it. I want you to send me the scans.
When I get the image as well, that'll be interesting to see, because I've got an image from not quite a year ago of a CT scan, and then I've got the PET scan from about 8 months ago to contrast it with. So we're going to have a pretty dramatic contrast, I believe. And
well, we don't need the scan to know that.
Right, exactly. I just look in the mirror, and that's that's exciting stuff. But I just, part of the thing is for me, I'm doubling down on my effort right now, because the difference from I just found out I have it to this giant mass is a huge difference. And now that it's gotten so small, it'd be easy to go, okay, we're good, but we're not good until we're done. And even when we're done, we get on a maintenance schedule, and we got to figure that out still. So
We
for me,
will, one step at a time. I
yeah,
think for now we've and we'll confirm this when you talk to the doctor and get the rest of the scan. We have to focus on that nodal mass,
right, exactly.
and see what we have to do.
Yep. And I'm up against the radiologist, or the radiation oncologist, and the medical oncologist. They have their plan, what they want to do, which is, hit me hard with radiation and chemo again. And, it's interesting. I've met some people. I have a friend who I've known for many years, and I discovered after her listening to some of my podcasts and us just talking, she had the exact same thing that I had, or the same cancer. It didn't manifest exactly the same, but they gave her the treatment that they want to give me, where they screw your head down to the table and they hit you with the radiation and then the chemo on top of it. And she has suffered horrendous side effects for many, many years, and it's never going to go away. And when I know another person who had a very similar situation as well, and she said, the inside of her mouth turned into hamburger, and she said the burning in her esophagus, and just her memory has been shot, and just a lot of really bad side effects that I don't want any part of. And
Joe, I got a little bit of encouragement
yeah,
when they say they want to give you chemo plus the radiation.
right.
Well, maybe it's a different chemo, and we can go just with the chemo, because
That's what I would
chemo is working
suggest.
so well.
Right.
Why don't we just stay with chemo?
Well, and I suggested that to the medical oncologist, and she says, nope, it's not the standard of care that she works with. She said it's a combination of those two, and she said more chemo wouldn't do any good by itself, is what she said. And
Well, she tried to tell you that in the beginning
I
when she
know
wanted you to do chemo radiation.
exactly. Well, I'm gonna ask her what the drugs are, so that at least I'll know.
Yeah, and we can get somebody else to prescribe them if we have to.
Exactly. That's what my thought is if I can figure out what that cocktail is, and then we can say, okay, well, the good news is I still got to deal with my mouth, and I wasn't able to do that while I was going through the chemo.
Well, even so, Joe, it seems radiation is it seems so perilous.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want it.
I mean, if it's going to come to life and death, okay.
That's
but
another conversation, but we're not at that place, and we're not going
we
to get
sure
that.
aren't. We're real far from that.
Yeah, and it's never going to get back to where it was, because we're not going to let it.
No, it's never going to go back to where it was. I just can't understand the logic these doctors have. That you had 3 cycles of chemo.
Right.
You had very good standard drugs, paclitaxel. You had docetaxel, right, or paclitaxel?
Yeah, I know, docetaxel, yeah.
Docetaxel, cisplatin, 5-fluorouracil. These are all war horses.
Yeah,
And
they did a great job.
They're the $10 drugs too.
You're right.
They've been around for generations, and they work.
They did a knockout job.
I'm just curious. It seems to me if you're going to get another chemo, we could do more of the same, or maybe the logic just sort of says, hey, wait a minute, let's do another cycle of the same.
Well, that's what I asked her originally when we had our last meeting. And I said, well, let's just say we get close, but we don't finish it. I said, would you be willing to order another cycle of the same? And she was flat out. She says 3 cycles is going to do what it's going to do. She said another cycle wouldn't do
How do we know that?
I know. I agree. I totally agree. So what we know is we have those 3 drugs that did work extremely well, and we're going to find out what their other cycle would be. And if we have to go and find another doctor that could order that, then maybe that's our answer. If it comes down to,
yeah, I think we have to go with chemo as far as we can on that mass, but maybe before we get too involved with it, we need that methionine PET to see if it's active.
agreed. Well, I'm going to work on being able to get out there and do that and figure out exactly how do I
How far are
determine.
you from LAX, Joe?
Oh, I'm an hour and a half. No big deal. I can get to LAX easy.
Okay, there's about umpteen flights to Japan every day out
Yeah.
of LAX. Chihiro used to work for United. She knows exactly how to use that airline
Okay.
and get a good deal. And you got her to take care of you. You've got the Mr. Whale. He's such a nice guy.
Okay.
So you got a whole team there ready to take care of you.
All right.
So, all right, let's see. Let's get the rest of the scan.
Yeah, we'll get the conversation with the doctor and see what they have to say. We'll get the rest of the scan, and meanwhile, that'll be my next plan is to get out there and let's get this thing going and find out some real answers. All the blood work in the world gives you clues, but this will tell the truth.
Well, the MedPet will tell you if this is an active cancer.
Absolutely.
I suspect that it is, but we have to know. The really good news is, geez, it went from 6.3 centimeters to 4. For God's sake,
Absolutely.
why we that's so good. Why we stop?
I know.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
I think
Well,
minimum. I would say, hey, let's do another cycle.
that would make sense to me.
Tolerating, it's not that you've reached your limit of toleration.
Not at all. In fact, I looked at I researched those drugs, and they said you can do up to 6 cycles. Is the Yeah, that's what the standard of care is you can have before it becomes a toxic dose, you can take up to 6 cycles of that.
And she's giving you, we have to stop at 3, and doesn't say why.
Well, she said that's all it'll do, all the good it's going to do, is what she said. Those were her words.
Well, first of all, she
I don't
has no
agree with that.
experience of combining the chemotherapy with the methionine restriction.
Exactly. But she don't want to hear that. She doesn't.
No, and I get that. I get that. She doesn't want to hear that. And it's ironic, Joe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, and you can do a little research.
Sure.
UC Irvine, where your doctor works,
Yep.
some other branch or whatever, they're going to do a clinical trial on a low methionine diet. So, and I forgot the name of the doctor, but she's probably, you can look her up.
Yeah.
She's from Romania.
Okay.
So you may want to see who the
I'll see if I can make contact.
Who are the medical oncologists at UCI.
Yeah.
And we find a name that looks a little bit Romanian, we can get in touch with her.
I will absolutely do that.
But it's so ironic, and probably your doctor, what's her name again? Nahar?
Nabar, yeah. I think she's Pakistani or she's some...
Or whatever. Nabar. So Nabar is in another universe than these other. This looks in a parallel universe.
Right, exactly. Working out of the same building.
It could be.
Yeah. It's hard to say, but yeah, it's wild. In speaking with Cynthia, she interviewed me for her blog, and she came on my podcast. But she told me about her story, and she worked with UC San Francisco. I think that was so. This UC system, I think, has got a good medical program, but it was flawed with her as well. They wanted to do surgery and all.
No, they're all reading the same guidebook, okay?
Agreed.
Whether it's the fanciest university or East Podunk U. They're all the same. And Oh, I'm going to go to Sloan Kettering. I'm going to get the best of the best. No, you get at Sloan Kettering what you get at Podunk.
Right.
It's the same guidebook.
It's the same book written by the same pharma companies.
And the same pharma companies. Hey, we're not against the pharma companies.
No. But it's just that's an influence.
I mean, it's the same drugs. And ironically, Joe, and I'll tell you, I'm a little bit surprised thinking back on it that it was so easy to get your drugs because they're all generic now, and for a while they were really in short supply because nobody wants to make them. Why should you make cisplatin, 5-fluorouracil, docetaxel, the $10 drugs when you could be making Keytruda or something like it that took in 24 billion?
There you go. And now they've got all these fancy immunotherapy drugs, and they're all coming out with something new every week.
And now the new fancy drugs, Joe, are the antibody drug conjugates.
Right.
Oh, boy, are they expensive.
There you go.
I mean, and so, but the old war horses are good.
Yeah.
Are they good enough? Usually not, but they're good. And we're hoping, and we see with you, looks like methionine restriction makes them a lot better.
And a giant, and the fasting.
A lot of other folks too.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the fasting.
I'm big on the war horses, Joe. I'm big on them.
I love it. You work with what works, and
yeah.
I couldn't agree more, and that's why I embraced this plan, and I'm glad I did.
Well, you can't argue with.
You cannot argue.
We don't need scans. We just need to look at Joe 1.0 and Joe 2.0.
Exactly.
You're like different people.
Oh, absolutely. And the best thing is my body's rebuilding itself now, and I'm getting stronger every day. And the thing that happens is it's crazy because when you get
Joe, you look a lot better without hair. You look very distinguished.
Well, that's what a lot of people say, and as I said before, I couldn't care less one way or the other. What I don't have is this, and that's what I do care about.
Absolutely, you got rid of that monster.
Yes, exactly. So the thing is while I was battling that, it took so much out of me. I lost all this weight from the diet and from just not being able to be active, and I lost a lot of muscle mass. I lost my stamina. I wasn't sleeping, so my immune system was compromised, and I was really weak there for towards the end. I was in the worst state I'd ever been in my life, and once I started sleeping again, it made a big difference. And then I've been really focused on the diet and, trying to get all the calories I need without bringing the methionine in. And I'm doing pretty good with that. I found, these foods that I can eat that have some calories to them. And
you found Hominex.
I found Hominex. I love that stuff. I take.
Boy, we all love it.
3 doses a day now, and I take them first thing in the morning, and
a heck of a lot of calories.
Yeah, and I burn it off.
All your aminos, except methionine.
Exactly. No cysteine, no methionine.
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's enabling me to rebuild my muscles, and it's made all the difference in the world. I've gained back 10 pounds from where I had lost 25. And so I'm probably at a best weight I've been in a long time. And everybody that sees me hears my voice. They say, you're sounding stronger. And I just know I'm getting stronger. And that to me,
Sure, and you are. Joe, your case, I think, really highlights the roadmap that cancer patients have to go through.
yeah,
They could take one roadmap and just do everything the doc says and yes, doctor, or
right.
they can study and learn themselves and know that there's other things possible than what the doctor knows about and tells about.
Yep.
But how to get there? How to
Right.
get there?
Yeah. And you got to be willing to pivot and change and admit you're wrong and realize that sometimes things change. And my path has gone here and there and here and there, and I thought I was on a good road, and I found out I was on a wrong road. And then even doing all the right things, I had to find out there was adjustments. The diet caused a zinc deficiency. Dr. Castro found that, so get a supplement. And as we're going along, all of these little pivots. And and speaking of that, I don't know if you got a chance to look at it. I sent you over a bunch of links about the NMN.
Yeah, I just don't know about that, Joe. It's just
Yeah.
not my area.
No. And the only
My
reason,
philosophy: if it doesn't hurt, do it.
exactly. Well, what I did a precursory research, and it turned out there's a lot of information from a lot of different angles. And I haven't studied all these reports, but I scanned them and looked at the abstract, and I got at least a little snapshot of what it is. And just to begin the discussion of it, because I don't know that this is going to be any holy grail or anything, but it seems that it had a multitude of benefits. And one of the benefits was um, it helped to ameliorate the negative effects of cisplatin. And it helped some of the other chemo drugs where you get these side effects. You get a brain fog, you get, weakness, you get nausea. And one of the benefits of this was it lessened those things, or they're claiming this anyways in
Good
this.
thing, Joe.
And that's a good thing. Another one was it seemed to work with a number of different um, tests to find these cancers and help them to work better. And it was a number of cancers, colorectal cancer, and I believe there was a head and neck cancer, and there was a few different cancers, and there's these different tests that can determine if you've got like the PSA test and all these other tests where it says, well, you got these markers that will indicate that you've got a problem or you don't. And apparently, there are some studies that are showing that this can help improve the efficacy of those tests. And then there were several studies that showed there were mechanisms that help to actually attack the tumors. And I didn't study this deep. I just, did a brief scan and on the abstracts, but I believe that I'm going to spend more time studying this. And I couldn't find anything to the contrary. And
Okay.
one of the studies was talking about it was increasing the apoptosis.
Yeah, and ferroptosis, and that's a good thing too.
Yeah, and that's a system that can help destroy the cancer cells.
That's right.
And so it seemed that was um, making that work better. So it seems that I couldn't find anything that said it's got a problem and that it's causing any of these problems. So that's kind of my.
You can try it out. Just
I'm
see how
using it
makes
right
you
now.
feel.
Yeah, I went back to taking it, and immediately I can feel the positive benefit from it, where it gives you a benefit of stamina, and you feel energized from it. But it supposedly it's helping to, reset your DNA and work on, there's a lot of anti-aging properties to it where it's restoring things that are going wrong. So I'm
Can't knock that.
yeah, it's nothing I could find
But,
bad about
if it makes you feel better, do it. I mean,
it.
why not?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of exciting. And again, I'm not looking at anything as a silver bullet, but I look at sort of I've got this quiver of tools, and I'm trying to eliminate as many of them that don't work, because why mess around with things that don't work or don't serve me? And I'm trying to take the fewest amount of things that do the most good, and that way I can manage it. And the diet's enough, to keep me busy. So I try to keep all the extra things. I like my soursop tea. I think that's got some benefit, and it doesn't hurt, and it's easy enough to drink and all of that. But
Sure.
other than that, I think the message really is, though, that this search for answers and being willing to take action when you learned about something, and taking the time to get good information, listening to different people. Like, I shared these results with half a dozen people that all have medical backgrounds, and they all basically agreed the same. They all had about the same result. Full congratulations, and we're well on our way. So that to me was,
Right, that's just undeniable.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes there's information that could be interpreted one way or another, and that's why I try to get the feedback from people I respect, and look for anything. But I didn't get anything other than positive, so that makes me real happy. I'm looking forward. The 11th, I have my appointment with the medical oncologist, so we're going to be talking about the results and what.
Ask her, Joe, maybe not confront in the beginning. You just say, well, with your proposed chemo radiation for the next treatment, what would be the chemo?
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And I've been able to communicate with her even when we didn't necessarily agree, without being confrontational, and she's been respectful of my point of view. So I think we're okay to have this conversation
Well,
with.
the very fact that she treated you with this first cycles of chemo, which is really not in her guidebook,
Yeah,
is it's sort
that
of
was
is,
huge.
but
Huge.
that's a good sign already.
Exactly. That's the way I looked at it. It was in her playbook enough to consider it, and she didn't take any time to agree. And I was in a dire space, and I needed something to happen, and she knew that. So I think that that helped her make the decision pretty quick. But
Yeah,
it didn't
and
matter.
she's got to be impressed with this result.
Oh, she is. She is, absolutely. Every time she's seen me twice since we began the treatments, and both times her eyes got big, and she's like, "Here, get up close to the camera. I want to see that closer." And she was real impressed. And then, the practitioner that I meet with, or was meeting with, prior to the infusions, she'd do the same thing. She was actually there, and you just watch her. She'd be looking at me like, "Whoa." It was just such a dramatic change,
Bill,
especially.
heads up, I just got a message on my phone that it's starting to overheat.
Got it.
So
Well, we're about to the
cut
end
off.
anyway.
I'm a little worried.
Okay. Well, let's just go ahead and we'll close the session down, and we'll let your phone get back to normal temperature.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
Joe.
this
Then
is.
we'll see you on Sunday.
I look forward to it. This has been another edition of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine. Thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.
All right. Take care.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.